In this lesson titled Numeric and Special Formatting, we're in Workbook Lesson 04, Format Data, and we're in Worksheet tab, Numeric and Special. Excel has some very powerful tools for formatting our data. Here we see a range of data that has really no formatting associated with it. For instance, our Social Security numbers have no dashes in them. If you were tasked with putting dashes in between each one of these numbers, this would take you some time. I mean, even though there's only about 69 rows here, that's a lot of dashes and you probably would make a lot of mistakes. But in Excel, you don't need to actually add things like dashes and parentheses or percentage marks or even commas and dollar signs. You can do all of that by simply formatting the data. If I click on right here under Social Security column and I'm in B2, you can see that the raw number is just what it appears to be. There's no formula or special formatting associated with this. But we easily could format these. In fact, let's format all of them. Let's just click on the B and we get the entire B column is selected. Now we're going to do some formatting. So the way we do that is anything that we can't find here, like in our font group or alignment group or number group, if there's anything we're looking for, we can always find it in our dialog box. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our dialog box. I can also hit Control 1. Our dialog box opens and I'm going to come over here to the Number tab because these are numbers, and so here's all our options for formatting numbers, and you can see that they're really quite extensive. Now in particular we want Social Security numbers. And one reason this lesson is called Numeric and Special Formatting is because we will need to use this special feature here if we want to do Social Security numbers. And you can see here under Sample it's showing us that we are in the SS column, and it shows us the different kind of special formatting that we can do. And sure enough, listed right here is Social Security number. So I can click on that and I can say OK. Now it's automatically formatted this for us. And look here in our formula bar, when I select this number, the raw data is still there. It just now we have the dashes in the proper place. This is a huge time saver. And notice we did not change the data, we just changed its formatting. Well, the same thing applies to phone numbers. So we can come over here and click on the C column header to select all of column C. And this time I'm going to hit Control 1 on my keyboard. And I'm going to come to my Number tab, down to Special, and Phone Number. And OK. So we got railroad tracks here, otherwise pound signs, you might call that. So we will need to adjust it. We learned in a previous lesson that we can simply put our cursor between the two columns and double click, and we get what's called best fit. So why did it suddenly not fit? Well, we had to add some dashes and some parentheses, and so the data wouldn't fit anymore. But after the best fit it does now. And if I select one of these, you can see up in the formula bar that we did not change the raw data. It's still there. All we did was change the formatting, which gave us these nice parentheses and the dashes in the correct place. So very powerful to find the special in the dialog box for format. Now let's try some other ones that I think are really useful. So here we have, it says percent, and sure enough these do kind of look like percent. If I was to times, say, this salary number times this percent times 0.48 or times 0.18, I would get the proper number, but we might want to actually see it as a percent. So we can tell Excel these are percents and it will format it in a percent format. So I can select all of D again, and I can come over here and we have a percent icon. You see it right here. It even has a shortcut, Control-Shift% sign. Well, I'm just going to click on this and we'll now see that the format has been changed for all of these. Now, Excel will still treat these as a percent. So if I times that number times 67%, that would be the same as 0.67. Over here on dates. Dates are really quite interesting, all the things we can do with dates. Let's just click on one for now. One thing we can certainly do once we select it is you can come over here to your number group, and up above you can see that it already noticed that this is a date. And because it's a date, Excel can do a lot of things with it format-wise. So if I click on this drop-down box, we can see I have a choice between short date and long date. And these are only the really two ones that we have as far as dates go. So if I change this to date, you can already see here it's given us an example of exactly what it will say. Tuesday, October 16th, 2012. That's the actual information that we currently have selected. So I click on it. It doesn't fit. I'm going to click Auto Fit just to the right of the E column. And there it is, Tuesday, October 16th. 2012. Well, dates can do a lot more than just that. But in order to do that, we're going to open up, you guessed it, our dialog box. We're going to open that up, and we're on number, and it's already pre-selected date for us. And here we have a lot more choices. So there's even government choices and international choices. There's some different formats where we say the month and the day and the year, spelled out this way. There's the one we actually used originally. Here, the long date, right? It's highlighted because it's just telling us that's what you currently have. So a lot of options there. Even some here with dashes. So lots of choices there. Now, if I was to go down to custom, I can actually customize the date and the time, and lots of choices here. You keep getting more and more choices. But the great thing about custom is you can literally put in anything you want. And you have an example here for month, day, and year. So I'm just going to put in my own. So let's do something kind of different here, shall we? I'm just going to say day with two D's, and then I'm going to do a dash. And then I'm going to say the year, but I'm going to do 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another dash, and then I'm going to do the day, but I'm going to do it with 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and another dash, and then I'm going to do the month, and I'm going to do it with just 2 M's on the month. And let's see what that gives us. And it gave us 16, 2012, Tuesday, and then a 10 over here. So this is 10 for the month, if you remember. So it's kind of interesting. If you give it 4 Y's, then you get the 4-digit date. If you give it 2, it'll give you the 2-digit. On the day, if you give it 2, you'll just get something like 16. But if you do 4 D's, you'll get Tuesday. So you can kind of see the pattern there. And of course, I used dashes instead of slashes, so I got dashes. So the dates are completely customizable, and you can spend a little time looking at that. Let's take a look now over here at salary. Now, salary is a number, of course, and there's lots of ways of looking at numbers. I'm going to increase the size of this column just a little bit, just for us to view it a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So I'm going to click on my zoom bar a couple of times. Each time I do, I increase by 10%, and I'm going to move my slider over. And did you notice over here that when we zoomed in, we got these railroad tracks or all of these pound signs? Now, that's just kind of a bug in Excel. When you zoom in and zoom out, sometimes the font size gets a little confused, but it's not hurting your data or anything. I'm going to select both of these columns, and then I'm going to hit Best Fit by double-clicking, and there we can see them again. Alrighty, let's come back over here to the numbers that we are dealing with, and we have lots of formats when we're dealing with numbers. And in this case, if I scroll up, I can see this was salary. Well, salary is formatted a little differently, typically, isn't it? And we have some nice formats here. One of them is called comma style. Let's click on that. Comma style automatically puts in for us the commas at the 1,000 marks. So we have those right here. It even gave us a decimal with 2 decimal places off to the right. Once we have decimal places, it's good to know that you can increase them or decrease them. So I might choose that I don't want any decimals there. Or maybe I want 2, 3 decimals. So you can control that as well. Also over here we have a dollar sign, and that's the accounting format. That's very popular, used by accountants. It's rather international. I'm going to click on it. And what does it give me? It gives me a dollar sign, and it also gives me commas. Now let me increase the size of this column a little bit to demonstrate something. Do you see how the dollar sign always stays over here, all the way to the left? That's part of the accounting format. If I click on that, there are other formats. For instance, there's currency. Now currency is just slightly different. It actually shows the dollar sign up close to the number, kind of regardless of the size of the column. But there's also a lot of other options, as you might imagine. So if I open up our dialog box here for numbers, it has automatically selected numbers and currency for me. And under currency, we have different ways of representing negative numbers. So this can be very useful to either have a negative number just with a regular negative, or it could be red if it's negative, or it could just have red with parentheses around it if it's negative. So this might make a little more sense if we came over here. Let's select all of balance because we do have some negative numbers. Let's open up our dialog box and let's come down to currency, and let's do red if it's negative. And we can even change, by the way, the decimal places by default, and even the symbol. We might want euro or the Korean won. Let's say OK. And so all of our negative numbers are in red, and we have a dollar sign. We have 2 decimal places. Could I change the decimal places in this format? Yeah, you still can. You can still control those. Even though it's its own special format, you can still control those features. So experiment with that a little bit and get comfortable with all the different kinds of formattings. Just remember that Social Security and phone is found in the dialog box under Special. Percent and some of your date formats you can simply get with your drop down in numbers, and others like just a simple comma format or a simple accounting format you can get here, or also through a drop down and also through our dialog box opener.